back to the Stick 'em Up podcast. Brundi, we got some big stuff around the league. Do you want to kick it off? Do you want to be the one to announce?
Yeah, I got no problem announcing this. The wait is finally over. We now know that the San Jose Sharks have won the 2024 NHL Draft Lottery. First time in nice. I think that was the first time since I think they said it was 2010 that there was absolutely no movement within the results, the order, everything stayed the exact same. And funny enough, so for those who don't, because I know a lot, like it's normally they don't make they don't make such a big deal about it like before, but now they really do about the whole process. Because I mean, for the longest time, if people just thought there was ping pong balls that had the team's logo on it, and that's how it was done.
Because that's how they presented it, right?
Yeah, it's the way that it's always been presented. And so the way they actually do it is based on like the percentages of each team. You have a set of number combinations of 4 different numbers, and then they draw the balls one at a time. They do 4, and then whatever team has that number combination gets the first overall pick. So obviously they did it the first time. It landed on I don't know what they released what the number combination was.
It almost sounds like a 50-50 the way your number has to match the number they come up with, like with the tickets.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Like you get your numbers almost like a 50-50, and then it has to match like that, but they're randomizing the 4 numbers. They're not drawing tickets.
Yeah. So then the first draw was done. The Sharks got first overall. They actually released the footage, much like the year Montreal won a couple years ago. They released a video of the whole process and it happening and the announcement being made to everybody in the room. And then they do it again because then now they have to draw for who gets second overall.
Yeah, because there are 2 lotteries there. One for first, one for second.
And the Sharks won it again, which is the first time that's ever happened where they've had to do a redraw. And so they do it a third time, and then the Sharks won again. And then eventually on the 4th time of doing it, the Chicago Blackhawks ended up winning the lottery on the second overall pick. So they stayed put right where the odds favored them to be out of any team. So, you know, we now know the order of how it goes. San Jose first, Chicago second, Anaheim third, Columbus was 4. And then Montreal was 5, and then so on throughout the rest.
If you look at the season standings and just reverse it from last to first, it's that exact same thing. Like he was saying, it's never been, at least since they made it so that there's multiple lotteries, since there's 2 lotteries now, because it used to be just for the first overall. Ever since there's been 2, they have never had 0 movement in the draft. And it's the exact same as the odds order showed. So it was really interesting.
Yeah, we actually got together for the draft lottery here. We did get what I looked back on it, and it's actually a really, really good reaction video. So we will find a way.
You got pretty loud. It was pretty funny. I know our brother Bailey was over a bit off screen, and I think he was taken aback at how much you yelled for that. That was a really good reaction.
It was a huge moment.
First overall pick for San Jose in franchise history, right?
Yep. Yeah, highest they've ever had was second overall a couple of times, and this is the over 30 years in the league. I think 32. They finally got one, and it really just accelerates this rebuild that
nobody deserves it more, man. Like, and I know that's like that's kind of a backhanded comment because that means they suck the most. But like in November, people were sitting there like, are they going to break records for worst team of all time? And like, neither of us thought that would happen, and it didn't. But like, it was very possible. Like, it looked like it. Like,
it was a very embarrassing season.
Yeah, like like there was like back-to-back 10-goal against games at some point. Like it looked bad. So, and not to mention, obviously they're going to take Macklin Celebrini first overall. Dude was a junior Shark when he was younger. Like his dad works with the Golden State Warriors. Like he's got so many roots in San Jose and the Bay Area. So
Yeah.
it's a fantastic story. Everyone online was so glad the Sharks won. If nothing else, because the Blackhawks lost. And lost means they get a really good defenseman second overall, most likely. But they didn't get Celebrini, and fuck, people got to take the wins where they can, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. And I mean, like obviously we knew the Sharks were gonna be bad this season. Like they started off horrifically bad, and then it just continued to get worse. It's Hurdle goes down with another knee injury, and then it's Hurdle's now traded to Vegas of all teams.
Couture, did he get injured during the season, or was he out the whole season?
He was totally fine throughout kind of, I think, training camp, and there's kind of in preseason he kind of hurt himself, and it was like starting the season he's day to day, probably missed like the first 2 to 3 games, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, he's missed like 40 now. And then he comes back, he plays 6 games, and then he shut himself down. He's like, yeah, I need to take the rest of the season off. So like that, just worst case scenario for Sharks fans, kind of the little beacons of hope you have, some of the glory days and whatnot, kind of all came crashing down. Obviously Couture still is with the Sharks. Don't really know what's going to happen with him. But this is just huge for the Sharks. It's huge for Mike Grier, who, got a lot of criticism kind of from the beginning. He came into just a mess, and, kind of just like we've talked about, ripping the Band-Aid off immediately, trading Burns, and then later on the year, trading Timo Meier, who, again, people, myself included at the moment, kind of thought the return was a bit underwhelming. The return is looking much better now.
You have no idea how these guys are going to turn out, but turns out a couple of them are going to be pretty damn good. So now it's looking better, especially with Meier not doing near as well in New Jersey. We'll see how that works with a new coach. But I mean, from trade deadline on, around then, he was one of the best players in the league. He was much over a point per game, tons of goals. He was hitting again, so he'll probably be bouncing back next year.
Oh, I think so. I think now that he's kind of found where he fits in best with the team and where he works, I think that new coach, whoever the new coach is, that takes over in there in New Jersey, we'll have already seen that, and we'll acknowledge that, and I think we'll be just fine. But going back to Grier, just to because I don't want to talk about this too much, because we can obviously come back to all this, kind of around the time of the draft. But then trading Erik Karlsson, which, I mean, kind of looked like an unmovable deal at what he was making. But then after, the 100-point season with the Norris Trophy, he was able to retain a little bit of money and ship him off to Pittsburgh, which we now know that that first-round pick that the Penguins trade to the Sharks will be 14th overall in this year's draft. Yeah.
So 14 overall and first, they're going to have a real nice looking pipeline, I think.
Yeah. And then, I mean, again, people are still up in the air about it. And it is tough to say when you're talking about unknown picks and unknown prospects who haven't played in North America. Yeah. But then the Hurdle trade, you're bringing in a former first-round pick in David Edstrom, who is looking really good over in Sweden. Obviously, might not be the same story coming over to North America. Maybe it gets even better.
Yeah, unfortunately, for every Matthews who comes over from playing over there, you get a Nail Yakupov. It's really tough to know until they get here and you see the results.
Yeah, but I mean, just when you look at all the pieces that Mike Grier has brought in and assembled for this team, first overall pick this year, 14th overall, and then San Jose's own first round pick next year, which is probably going to be, again, assuming a top 5 pick, and then you've got Vegas's first round pick, which is completely unprotected, and so that could be anywhere. Who knows, right? So again, just really happy for Mike Grier and what he's done. Huge for the Sharks, huge for the fans. And again, like you said, Chicago lost, so really we all kind of won, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely the common sentiment online.
I sure think so.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, one before we move to the next thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I showed you I can't remember the account, but the one who apparently leaked the draft lottery.
Yeah.
And that was the one. Anyone listeners probably saw it online. It was the one that had San Jose obviously winning the draft lottery, and then Utah, whatever they want to call their team, winning the second overall pick. Obviously, we know that's not the case of what happened. And one of San Jose's reporters, Shang, he was invited to be a part of the process, and he was taking lots of photos for the fans. And then he made a funny joke afterwards, because when he took a picture, it was just of the original draft board of their odds and whatnot. And then he made a joke about how he accidentally leaked the results beforehand because nobody moved. So I thought that was pretty clever and a little poking fun at again, I can't remember the other account, but the other account who probably caught some heat for putting that out there. But yeah, it's all in good fun.
Yeah. There were a couple coaching changes. We're going to keep this one a bit shorter, so I think we'll probably cover the coaching changes on Friday's episode, just because, all those teams anyone making coaching changes right now is out of the playoffs, so, their teams aren't exactly, the situation is not exactly changing over there, exactly. Other than those hirings, so, it's a lot of them are getting grabbed up, so maybe by late Thursday, Friday, we'll have a couple more teams to talk about as well.
Yeah, I think there might be at least maybe not more confirmed hirings, whatnot, but I think we will have a better idea of
who's trying out for which teams and stuff like that.
Exactly, where certain teams are looking for guys, especially again going back to San Jose. Now that Mike Grier said, now that they know where they sit in the draft, it makes it that much easier. Going through their process of looking at coaches, and potentially for other teams, again, like New Jersey, now kind of knowing what their situation's at, where they are, and then they can kind of navigate what they're going to do, because they're a team that should be contending next year, and I think they really could just be a coach away from getting there.
Yeah. And of course, every coach that's out there is all linked to the Leafs, regardless if they're actually in talks with them, because everyone's waiting for Chief to get fired.
Was it you telling me that he signed an extension at the beginning of the season?
Yep, his extension kicks in on July 1st. I don't think he's gonna last till his extension. To be fair, there have been, I believe, 3 or 4 coaches this year who had extensions in place who got fired before that could even activate.
Yeah, I think Jay Woodcroft was one, wasn't he?
Lindy Ruff might have as well, but I'm not 100% positive on that one.
I think you're right. I think Dave Haxtell maybe as well, or he was just in the first year of his extension.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll move into talking about the playoffs in just a moment here, but we did promise that we were going to keep up on this story over here, the story of the former NHLer Cody Hodgson, who announced that he was coming back. He was going to try and make an NHL return earlier this year, I believe in January. He came back with the Milwaukee Admirals. I believe that's Nashville's AHL team.
Yeah.
But he played in, I think it was 2011. He took an 8-year break from the NHL because he had malignant hyperthermia coupled with some chronic back issues that forced him to retire for 8 years, and he was making that comeback. He is now announcing that he is retiring again. He gave it his best. Played 13 games with the Admirals. He had 6 goals and 2 assists. So almost half a goal a game, and getting close to a point per game at 8 points in 13 games. So he was doing it, but looking at some of the interviews, it sounds like it was just really rough for him. He knew, he said that after the first period of that 13th game, he knew that he was done. After his final game, he did a fantastic exit interview, saying that he promised himself that if he ever felt healthy enough, he would give it another shot, no matter when it happened, even if it was 8 years later. He continued saying, "Now I know I'm just not able to do it anymore, so I'm good. I'm at peace with that more than I ever was in the last 8 years."
That's got to be a huge, kind of closure for him now, at least.
Yeah, it really came off as that, and he even played well in the AHL, which probably helps. He was out there and he was in pain, and he could tell that his body wasn't going to allow him to go from there up to the NHL either. So
well, and I give him credit as well, because like obviously, like you mentioned, I mean, 6 goals and 2 assists after all those years of not playing is really good for a guy.
Yeah,
coming
he didn't
back.
just retire from the NHL. He stopped playing professional hockey, and I don't believe he
I don't know
went
if he
to Europe.
No. Like I'm assuming he probably, obviously still kept skating and whatnot, but like wasn't playing at a high level like this. And that, I mean, good on him for making the decision to retire again, like doing this at the end of the regular season, as obviously the Admirals are now in the playoffs right now, taking on the Texas Stars. I believe that's who they're facing. And he retired before them because, again, playoffs is just a different game, different level of intensity, a lot more rough. And he chose to put himself first and take care of himself. And like he said, he's now kind of got that. He's at peace more. He's got that closure. And at least he knows now. It's not a lingering question of, could I have ever made it back? At least he knows now where he's at. So,
yeah. I'm just looking at his stats screens here. So yeah, from 2016 to 2023, he did not play anywhere.
Inactive, some would say.
Yeah,
I think everyone would say.
Before that, he was with the Nashville Predators, Buffalo Sabres, Canucks. It also has him listed as Canada WC. Is that World Championships?
Yeah.
Dude had 6 goals and 8 points in 8 games.
Dude, he just loves getting 6 goals, 8 points, man.
He's nuts. Like,
that's just his go-to.
Yeah, looks like his best season in the NHL was in 72 games for the Sabres in 13-14. Probably didn't have a bunch of great line mates at that point. 20 goals for 44 points. So like he was
a great middle sixer. He was great when he was. I mean, again, it's just injuries that really affect him, because he was an effective
and
guy.
And then also different. I guess you could call it an ailment, an affliction, and the malignant hyperthermia. So, we promised earlier, and back when this broke in January, that he was making his comeback, that we would follow that. And it sucks that he has to retire, and he's done. But he sounded very at peace with it, and he sounded like he's good. And honestly, they got a lot of really good guys in that Nashville organization. I wouldn't doubt that they try and give him something to do.
Maybe bringing him in of something like maybe something in player development, or maybe something on the side of working with the trainers, and when guys get injured, he can or maybe he's just around him within the organization. He's always there for just players to chat with him. Like, I know that's that's kind of, I mean, like other players have done that with other organizations, so I could very well see him kind of being a guy that can help talk players through some stuff, as he's kind of been through the ringer and whatnot, and he came out on the other side of it, and he can help these players go through whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah, we've seen a couple teams over the years start doing a lot of that, hiring guy to kind of be that, like, assistant to the assistant regional manager kind of idea, where Spezza over in Toronto and Iginla currently in Calgary, like they're basically just collecting a paycheck to be around sometimes. And if he could be one of those guys and kind of follow some people around, learn some things, maybe that if you hang around with the trainers and stuff for 10 years, maybe that means somewhere down the line he'll be a good trainer or a coach or something.
Exactly, yeah. So
kind of
that could be huge for Nashville. But well, first of all, congratulations to Cody Hodgson. Amazing career. Wish you nothing but the best in your official retirement now on your own terms, which probably also actually feels really nice for him that it's not forced upon him. He can actually just make the decision himself now and be at peace with it. Wish him nothing but the best moving forward in whatever he does. And yeah.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better myself.
But with that,
moving on to the playoffs.
Playoff time. Exactly. Since the last episode, we had 3 series that were yet to be finished. Vancouver and Nashville. We know Vancouver ended up winning that in Game 6, 1-0 as well, off a late goal by P.S. Suter. And then we had 2 Game 7s on back-to-back days. The one at least the one we all knew was going to Game 7, Boston versus Toronto, and then we had the Dallas Stars versus the Vegas Golden Knights in Game 7. Is there any of these specifically that you want to dive in a little bit on, or anything you're kind of noticing or feeling or want to put out there?
I definitely think we could probably talk the longest about Toronto.
Oh yeah.
I think there's the least to say about Vancouver's, so we can probably start there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say. Like, first of all, congratulations to the Nashville Predators. Incredible season.
They made it a series.
Yeah, and not a lot of people even thought they were going to make the playoffs this season, and to make it and give a top powerhouse team like the Canucks a battle, a run for their money, really putting the pressure on them. Incredible. And even going back to was it Game 3? No, Game 4. The comeback.
Yeah. And that made it 3-1 in the series, so that was kind of the dagger in a lot of ways. A big comeback like that.
Like if Nashville won that game and it's tied up 2-2 going back to Vancouver, like, could be a totally different series, and maybe we're talking about Nashville moving on. Like, it was a close series,
they
defensive
played such
battle.
a good defensive game. I was just about to say, like, they really gave it their all against Vancouver, and both teams played a great defensive game. Like, so many of those games ended 1-0, 2-1. Like, they both. Well, I was gonna say both, but I guess Saros on the Preds and the 3 different goalies that played for the Canucks all came out of that series looking pretty good.
Yeah. I mean,
obviously,
it was
2 of them injured on the Vancouver side, but when they did play, it was looking good.
Yeah. I mean, like, at the end of the day, the Canucks were the better team. They did win, but Nashville was making sure that they let everybody in the league know, like, hey, you know what, we can contend with our guys here. We're a good team, and I'm curious to see, because again, it kind of looked like back last offseason they were kind of doing a small little retool and whatnot. Now that Barry Trotz had taken over, but now that they made the playoffs, it's like, I'm curious to see how they go about it. Do they, just trust the process of what they're doing, or do they try to, kind of beef their team up a bit more going next season and really try and give it a run? I'm very curious to see what they do, but nonetheless, very impressive season from the Nashville Predators. Like, can't say nothing bad about them.
Yeah, I mean, that massive run at the end of the season to get into the playoffs was incredible. So,
yeah.
And Roman Josi, great series as well.
Great, yeah.
Like, yeah. If they went deep at all, like, he was obviously going to be one of the Conn Smythe front runners, at least on Nashville. Like, he was just lights out.
Yeah.
Moving on to Vegas and Dallas. This was a weird series.
Very weird. Very, very, very weird series. I'll let you start off with this one. What are your?
I don't remember the last time I saw the first 4 games all go to the away team. I mean, what even happened with the remaining games? So Vegas won in Dallas 2 times in a row. Then the next 2 went to Dallas in Vegas.
Yeah.
And then did they each win a home game after that?
Yeah. Dallas won 5-7 at home, and Vegas won Game 6 at home.
Yeah. So
it was kind of a weird series like that.
Yeah, it was a great comeback by Dallas.
Huge.
They had a lot of
comeback.
guys step up. Ottinger's been pretty solid for them.
Looked a little shaky in the first two, but he shut
Definitely.
it down from, start of game 3 to end of game 7. Lights out. I don't know 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure he only allowed 1 goal in the third period, from games 5 or from games 3 all the way through to 7. Only 1 third period goal against.
Yeah. Well, he's got 14 goals against in 7 games. So he's got a goals against average of 2. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good. Actually, on Money Puck, they had it as 1.95. I guess he would have been pulled for some of that, but or no, because they went to overtime. That's why it would go down.
Yeah.
But either way, pretty solid across the board from him. Besides those starting games, Wyatt Johnston has looked incredible. I cannot believe this dude's 20 years old.
Yeah. Like he's turned 21. I think they said next week.
Which was it? Game 5 that went to overtime?
No, that was game 3, and so that's what I was gonna say. So, like, looking, it's this Dallas Stars team is incredible. Like, you're the top team in the West. So you'd think, oh, okay, maybe we get a little bit of an easy opponent. No, you get the defending Stanley Cup champions, who, in my opinion, are better than they were last year with the additions of guys like Mantha, Hurdle,
pretty
Hanifin.
solidly better. Like maybe some guys are more injured, but roster wise.
Yeah, and then you lose your, games 1 and 2 on home ice. And it's like, shit, now we got to go into their barn, which kind of talked about as one of the hardest buildings to play in. You're down 2-0. Now game 3 goes to overtime. It's like your playoff hopes are on the line in this game. And it's 20-year-old Wyatt Johnston that steps up there and,
did you see
ends
him
the game.
Score the goal on his second exact same shot?
Yeah.
So I didn't watch the entire game. I think I watched the last 5 minutes of regulation, or the last 15 minutes of regulation or something, and then I watched overtime. But during overtime, at one point, Wyatt Johnston comes down the side and he tries to beat their goalie up high over the shoulder, and he gets it over the goalie, but it goes wide. He just barely misses. And he gets off the ice, and very next shift he goes out there, ends up in a spot to take the exact same shot, and this time he roofs it and it goes in.
Yeah.
And it's like he was so clearly like, okay, so like this would have worked. I just need to adjust. And like it's always fun getting to watch those as a viewer, as a fan, being like, he clearly was like, this was so close. If I just can execute it properly this time. And he was left wide open and just sniped it. And as of the time of recording, the second round has started. Dallas actually lost. They gave up a 3-goal lead, lost 4-3 in overtime, actually, which is pretty tough to the Avalanche. But Wyatt Johnston scored again in that game off a nice shot off the faceoff. God, 20 years old, dude. Like, this guy's got like 5 years before he gets into his prime.
Mm-hmm. So
at least,
just quickly going back to what I was saying. So it's like, now Dallas takes games 3 and 4 in Vegas. They go back home, they win again. So now they're up 3-2. And it's like, hey, we just got to win one more game. Hard fought game 6, could have gone either way. They come up just short. And then game 7, another close game. They come out on top. Like, they were in such a bad spot, and they completely just rewrote the script on how it's going to go. Like, against the defending Cup champs, who are only better. You went 4-1 against them over the last 5 games. That is really incredible. And Wyatt Johnston. So this is Dallas's scoring chance leaders from the first round. These are the top 5 players who had the most scoring chances. Jamie Benn and Jason Robertson both had 11.
Wow.
Rope Hintz had 12. Sagan had 14, which I think consisted of like 8 breakaways that he cannot score on. He makes $9.5 million, and he can't buy a goal. Absurd.
There's a lot of guys who seem to specifically suffer on breakaways. I know Kucherov is horrendous at breakaways.
Yeah. So Tyler Sagan was second on the team with 14. Wyatt Johnston is number 1. Again, 20 years old. How many do you think he had in just this 7-game series against Vegas.
Sagan had what, 18? Did you say?
Sagan had 14.
14. Let's go. I mean, it's got to be a decent bit higher, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be asking. 21.
31.
Jeez.
Double. Over double.
Good Lord.
Like man. And this is also him. It's not even like, oh, he's got good line chemistry with his linemen. He was bouncing around the lineup. He was playing third line. He was up on the first line. He was swapping with Pavelski. All of a sudden, he was on the second line. Like he was all over the place. He's a Swiss Army knife for them. He can play anywhere. He can do anything, all situations.
As much as he can play anywhere in the lineup, I think you want to keep him with Robertson at this point. Just he can be a scoring machine. Like, obviously, it's nice to be able to plug and place him, but you want to give this guy at minimum like second line minutes. Like, this guy's got to be playing.
Yeah, they got to put him in the best chance to succeed. And I mean, clearly they've been doing it. He has been playing lights out, and is just really, just, I mean, again, it's all these great players on Dallas. You don't expect the 20-year-old kid that's he's not like a top 5 pick coming in to kind of save the day or anything. Like, he was a later first round pick, and man, he has just looked so good. It is incredible watching him play out there, and I got to imagine Dallas fans are just thrilled to see his progression over this season alone.
Yeah.
One more thing. Yeah, Vegas lost. So again, just like Chicago, we all win. Bye, Vegas.
Have a
nice summer.
Their goalies did everything they could. I had the goalie stats up here.
Like Hill and Thompson?
Yeah. So
yeah, nuts, man.
We'll talk about the stats a bit more later, but Logan Thompson is third in the playoffs in goals saved above expected. Aiden Hill's in 6th out of all goalies.
And I think Thompson played
4 games. And
he played 4 and Hill played 3. Okay. That was the other way around.
Yeah, so
and like goaltending didn't hurt them.
No, not at all.
Goaltending did not hurt them one bit.
It did its best looking at all these stats, it did the best it could to carry him. Thompson with a 921 and Hill with a 931. Like,
do you think Vegas maybe looks? Do you think Vegas maybe looks at like moving Thompson this offseason now? Only because
it depends who they see as the starter for their future.
I got to imagine it's Hill.
I kind of think so. The way they went to him after Thompson played so well, and then of course Hill puts up a shutout in that first game he stepped in, because we thought he was crazy. They were crazy for swapping out Thompson because he was so good, and then Hill came in and was arguably better. He was incredible. So
yeah, and I only
he's the guy who got him a cup.
Yeah,
I wouldn't doubt it.
Because Hill's making, I think, 4.9 for obviously this season. I think he's got 1 more year after this one, maybe 2. But Thompson's only got 1 more year after this one on his rookie deal. And so it's like Vegas isn't going to have the money to pay him. And if you've already got Aiden Hill, who you kind of shown your cards that he's your starter, he's your guy, I'm curious to see if maybe Vegas looks at taking advantage of a team like maybe a team like New Jersey that's scrambling for a goalie. And
a lot of teams want a goalie.
Yeah, especially a young goalie like Thompson, who's
he'd shown fit in real well somewhere like Ottawa.
Yeah, Ottawa would actually. I mean, they got to figure out what to do with Korpisalo first, but Ottawa could even be a great fit. So I'm very curious to see actually what Vegas might do there. Obviously, if they stick with both of them, that's not going to hurt them whatsoever.
Tandems look real good in the league right now.
But if they maybe want to, add some more pieces to their war chest come trade deadline next year, when they're obviously going to go ham again, might not be a bad idea for them to stock up on maybe a couple extra pieces that they can use.
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be a couple more years of selling everything not nailed down at the deadline to get even better stuff. So
yeah.
Definitely imagine they'll move one of them. I got to imagine it's Thompson, but
I would be seen. Think so. But I mean, if they decide to go with Hill, I wouldn't be surprised, because we've kind of seen that, with Vegas, it's you know, loyalty's there, but it's not there, a whole lot. It's winning first, loyalty second. So
yeah.
whatever gets them closer to another cup is the route that they're going to take.
Yeah, they did say they want to keep Marchessault. He said that he wants to stay, but
they got to find. They got to make.
They also told Fleury that he was sticking around, right? So
yeah,
we'll see. But that leaves the
first round. We got
the Toronto Boston game 7 in the series, and
we knew it was going 7.
We knew it was going to 7. Of course, it goes to overtime. I thought Toronto was going to do it. I thought William Nylander was going to carry them to the promised land. Game 7, overtime. I believe it. I saw that it is the most watched first round game in history in Canada. But
really, I mean, it makes sense. Like that's.
Yeah, I believe that was the stat. Maybe it was in the States, but I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's box office. They're doing it again. So
yeah,
but
yeah, it's just rinse and repeat with this story, man. It's I mean, you got to feel for Toronto fans. Got to feel for the players. There's
if they're healthy, I think they win the series. Like 82 games played from Nylander, and all of a sudden, he's out for the first either 3 or 4 games with migraines. It's come out since then. We know that like he said like that the doctors were checking him for concussions. It was so bad. He was saying that he couldn't see for a good bit of those days off he had. Like, and the fact that when he did get back and come into play, dude was an animal. He was a Conn Smythe monster out there. So if they had him for more games, if they had Matthews for more games, who it's like all you have to do is look at him on the bench and be like, that guy is not fully healthy. He was breathing heavy, not doing much. His face almost looked a bit sunken in. He kind of looks like he lost weight. Like he does not look great.
Here's the one thing I'll say with Toronto, though. I mean, like it's a fair point. Yeah, if team remained healthy, they probably do win. But it's like that those injury excuses and whatnot, they work on year 1, 2, maybe 3. You can stretch it a bit of a team's grand plan to win a cup. But when you're on year 6 of this core 4 or core 5, whatever you want to call them, it's like the excuses just don't cut it anymore. It's like figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, and I get it. Yeah, they probably do win if they're healthy, but it's like,
well, especially because those are their 2 best players.
Yeah, it's just we're rinsing and repeating with excuses. Like something has to change there.
Yeah, and I think they know that
and be like, oh, we could have done it. It's like, okay, but you haven't. Well, you did it once, but then you got just embarrassed in the second round. So, congrats for that. But like, man, it's just Toronto's. It's a tough game to lose. And, there's multiple players that are kind of getting the blame for the overtime goal. Also, just shout out to David Pastrnak. He caught a lot of heat from
his coach,
head coach Jim Montgomery after Game 6, and was told that he's a leader.
This guy needs to step up.
The best player, he needs to step up. And the goal aside from overtime, which was huge, he was the most noticeable player in Game 7 from start to finish. And then to cap it off with an incredible overtime winner on a play that he called. He called that when he gave it to Lindholm and gestured like, I'm going, like, send it in. And then ended up tucking it and ending it. Just incredible stuff by Pastrnak.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is Toronto's got someone like that, or like Boston's got someone like that, and Toronto doesn't.
I think Matthews or Nylander can be that guy. And in the playoffs, I think Nylander is that guy. I think in the playoffs, Nylander is just as good a player as Pastrnak. Honestly, a lot of people are very
Nylander, but you can't. Those can't compare those two.
A lot of people are so down on Toronto, and it makes sense with the history. But you look at their situation objectively. Look at their roster makeup. They have a good team here. And they can retool this to work, because people will pay you for a Nylander. Like, you can't get out from Tavares's without doing a little maneuvering and stuff.
Yeah, Tavares only does have 1 year left.
But Tavares only has 1 year left, and there are a lot of people who would pay you handsomely for a guy like Mitch Marner. And he's the guy who shows up the least in the playoffs consistently since like 2019, 2018. He showed up for, I believe, 3 games against Tampa in their series last year, and he looked great in those, and he helped them win. And other than that, he was almost invisible. He's just not a playoff guy. He's a regular season performer. And if they move on from Marner, if they in a season once his contract's out, they move on from JT or get him at a reasonable cap hit. Move on from Keefe. Hell, move on from Brendan Shanahan as the president of hockey ops. They have a really good shot at retooling this team.
Here's the thing with Toronto. They're a team that's built for offense, and this is status coming from Gord Miller here, who he put this out after the game and series had concluded. So Toronto's spending like half of their salary cap on 4 forwards.
Yeah.
Toronto has been held to 2 goals or fewer in 13 of their last 14 playoff games. One time, and that came in the that came in this series against the Bruins, that they had 3 or more goals, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, one was actually. Oh no, never mind. There was no empty netters. So, I mean, still like 14 games with that offense, and you're only scoring 3 goals. Literally, it's not even like 3 goals or more. 3 goals, one time out of 14 games. That is, it's unacceptable. It's and I don't want to rip on Toronto. Like, I mean, they kind of do deserve it, but like, I feel bad for them. It's an interesting spot. Like, Tree Living is in an interesting spot of what he's got to do with this team now. Though they're in a very unique spot that I can't say I've ever seen a team be in. Especially that it's 6 years of this core 4, core 5, and it one second round appearance.
I think at this point it's pretty safe to say they do have their starter now in Joseph Woll, which is something that they haven't really had in a while.
Yeah.
You get so much money. You get like $23.5 million in cap space as soon as Tavares and Marner their contracts are dealt with. Once you free up that money, you can get so many guys for that amount of cap space that can help fix it. They need to bring back Max Domi. 100%. He looked so good for them. He played a playoff-style hockey that you don't see from Toronto that often. Even Tyler Bertuzzi looked great for him.
He's like what Michael Bunting was, minus the dumb plays and the penalty taken in the suspensions.
Well, not even void of that, really, but
Bertuzzi's interesting. I think they might wait on him a bit. He might even end up actually.
I think he's harder to keep. I think he
hits the open market, and then Toronto sees kind of what's there, and then makes a decision. Domi, I think it's very clear both sides want to, get a deal done.
He wanted to be there before he was a Leaf.
It's just a matter of can they come to terms, because this is probably like, and again, I would love this for Domi because I'm a big fan of him. I hated seeing him, bounce around from team to team, kind of just get thrown around. I would really like for him to actually just stay somewhere and solidify himself, similar to Anthony Duclair, who we've talked about before. And this is the time for him to do it. So I'm curious to see if he can get what he wants from Toronto, and even if he can't, if he's willing to compromise a bit in order to stick around there.
Yeah, and
I like him there. I really do.
Dude, if he does compromise to stay there, slap the C on him, dude. Because Matthews didn't, Marner didn't, Tavares didn't, and after those 3 didn't, Nylander went, well, fuck. Am I going to take less money? Nobody else is. So he signed for a whole bunch too.
I think. I mean, like it's insane to even think of like Tavares getting the C stripped, but like where they're at now, it's like, man, and if they did, I'd be curious to see the route they go. Do they go with the Nylander approach, because he's kind of been the the big playoff performer, do you go with a guy like Matthews, who is kind of the
heart and soul
of that team?
I think you just be open to him about it. I think you get them both in a room with the coach and the GM, and you say, who wants to be the captain? Like, are you just going to say, yes, I'll take it because I'm the goal scorer? Or like, do you fucking want it? Because I get the impression Nylander wants that leadership role. He seems like a guy who like wants to will his team and like
I don't think
the team to winning.
He has a letter, really, does he? Like, I think it's Tavares, and then it kind of rotates between Marner, Matthews, and Riley. I'm not even sure if Nylander. I could be wrong. I totally could be wrong.
I think it rotates between Matthews, Marner, Nylander, and Riley. I think it kind of swaps around.
He's a guy. I think he'd be. I think him or Matthews. I don't think you can go wrong with either one of them.
I just think it's one of those scenarios that's almost best if you let them decide. Be like, does one of you is one of you like, I'm honored, I'll do it, and the other person like, I want to lead this team, because that's the kind of guy you want as captain.
Oh no, so it's listed as John Tavares as the captain. The alternates as Marner, Matthews, and Riley. Nylander hasn't had a letter going back in recent years. Only other guys that have had one is Hyman, Jacob Muzzin.
Marner doesn't want to talk to the refs. He doesn't want to. He's not a captain guy. It was interesting in the exit interviews. John Tavares spoke, Sheldon Keefe spoke, Shanahan spoke, Matthews spoke, Nylander spoke, Morgan Riley and Mitch Marner. Marner to talk to the media.
No, Marner did. Did you not see the comment from Marner?
Oh, did he do an exit interview? I heard that he didn't.
Yeah. Oh no, he did, and he made. And again, I don't think he meant to say it, but like, he. I can't remember the exact context of like the question he was asked and his response, but it was basically like, we're looked upon as gods here, like we're gods in Toronto, and obviously people are running with it, but it's like, man, like, you guys just got whooped again in the playoffs, going out in Game 7 again, even worse in overtime, and to say like, we're gods here in Toronto, especially when you're the guy kind of catching the most heat again, as usual. It wasn't a good look. Again, I think.
Well, he did say that like the fans look at us like we're gods. Like he wasn't saying.
I'm kind of paraphrasing because I don't know the exact quote.
I'm pretty sure he said that like, we're looked at as gods here, as in a thing like
what I think
he has to, play like a guy who is put in that position. Like, I don't believe he was ego dropping on anybody.
So here it is. So Marner was asked on what it means to be a Leaf. He said it means the world. Obviously, we're looked upon as, kind of gods here, to be honest. Again, still, are you looked at as a god? Probably not. Is Matthews Nylander? Probably.
I was gonna say there's not a lot of people that probably don't know his name living in.
No. Like if you live in Toronto, you know
in Toronto.
Who the core four is at this point now, 6 years running.
Sorry. They all did their exit interviews. Marner and Riley both didn't take the interview directly after Game 7. The post-game interviews.
Oh, okay.
The other three in the big five there did, and they didn't.
Yeah, but obviously, as like we've talked about, as the playoffs go on, we have less and less series and teams to talk about. We'll kind of come back and revisit these other teams. So, congrats to Toronto on the season. We will kind of come back to you. Boston, I mean, incredible.
We're definitely going to be talking about them more in this podcast as we go talk about the some of the stats leaders across the league.
One thing when talking about the playoffs and goalies in recent years, like what's a goaltender performance in the last, say, 5 years that is still one of the most incredible things you've witnessed?
I mean, so I don't know if you meant to lay this up for me, but
not Vasilevsky, not Vasilevsky.
I was going to say Vasilevsky in the playoffs. Jake Ottinger in that first round against the Flames.
That's what I'm looking for. So we were talking about it after, I think, Game 1 and 2, and we were like, do they keep going with Swayman? Do they stick with a tandem? They obviously went with Jeremy Swayman. And so he played 6 games against the Leafs and then played Game 1 against Florida the other night. he now set the NHL record for best save percentage through through a goalie's first 7 games in a playoff run, surpassing what Jake Ottinger did in that one year, almost single-handedly winning that series for Dallas against the Flames. As Jeremy Swayman now save percentage 955, and I think Ottinger was a 954. It was so close, yeah. But Swayman was so good for the Bruins.
Insane.
And
God, that's just so rough. Like every time that it looks like Toronto is so close, they run into Vasilevsky, who was it that year that he went on to win the Conn Smythe, or it might have been the year before, but like it makes it tough to score. Jeremy Swayman, who has a freaking goal save above expected of 13 in a 7-game series. Like that's
but if it was up against
so rough
Joe Schmo lineup or whatnot, sure. But again, when you're putting so much money into your top forwards, they need to find a way to get it done.
2 of them did.
I'm very curious because we know that they're doing
Matthew
the country
great too.
Yeah, we know that they're doing the country, like I don't know what they want to call it, like the country showdown or whatever. Next year, doing that like little four country tournament.
Yeah,
the United States, man, they're gonna have a decision on their hands when it comes to goalies. When you're gonna have guys like Hellebuck, Demko, Ottinger, and now Swayman,
American. Wow,
you're gonna have to cut one of those guys. You're gonna have to start one of those guys.
I don't doubt Swayman's going to be the starter, honestly, but I definitely think that Hellebuck should still be the starter.
Probably.
He's been so consistently good over the past 6 years at this point. Like, for my money, he's still the second best goalie in the league.
Like Canada's going to be like, what are we doing? We go in Jordan Binnington or Stuart Skinner. And then the U.S. is sitting here just going through all of these studs. Like, oh, which one do we go with? Like, it's just, oh man, they've such a deep pool of American goalies there that they can pick from. I'm probably even still forgetting one, honestly. But
do you know Saros, where he's from?
Switzerland, is it?
I just Google Saros. Oh, I got a Wikipedia article for
a Finland. Sorry, Finland. What am I thinking? It's got to be Finland. Yeah.
It's Finland.
I don't know why. I'm probably just thinking of Roman Yossi still. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Finland. Yeah.
I don't know why I looked at the name Saros and thought, is that American? But yeah, a lot of these other countries, America, Russia, like either of those countries, their 7th best goalie would probably be our first best. Like Canada's fallen off hard on the goalie market. They used to absolutely own it with a lot of those guys.
There's Carey Price for how long? Him and Fleury, pretty much.
Yeah, those are 2 pretty good ones, though.
Yeah, 100%. Oh,
Roberto Luongo as well.
Yeah, Luongo,
often forgotten about.
Yeah. So what do we want to do here? We've kind of now looked at. I know we didn't talk about Boston a lot there because we're still going to talk about them because they're still going in the playoffs. What do we want to do here? Because we are still trying to, again, with 2 episodes a week, we are trying to keep these a little bit more condensed and not as long. What do we want to do here when looking at second round matchups?
Honestly, I'm looking at some of the stats, and I think if we start going through the playoff scoring leaders and whatnot, every team that we need to talk about, we can kind of talk about when we bring up their players.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. And again, we're going to keep this kind of more condensed because we don't want to overextend.
50-minute condensed.
Yeah.
But yeah. So this is for obviously the playoffs. The points leader, of course, regardless of games played, it's Connor McDavid, 12 points in 5 games. In second, 11 points. You got to guess?
11 points. Marchand.
Oh, okay, that's a pretty good guess. He has 9 points. Mika
9.
Zibanejad.
Oh yeah, Zibanejad. Yeah, he had 2 points tonight, I think. The Rangers win. Something like
Yeah, he
that.
had the big double OT winner. The Rangers are now up 2-0 in the series over Carolina.
No, Zibanejad didn't get the OT winner. He got an
Didn't
assist
he?
on it. No, Trocheck got it.
Oh yeah, never mind. What am I thinking? It was definitely
Yeah.
Trocheck. Vincent Trocheck, fourth for points. Actually, I guess tied with 3 guys for third. Vinny Trocheck, notoriously tied with Matthew Tkachuk and Leon Draisaitl. That's pretty good company. All tied at 10 points.
Very good.
Yeah, they the Rangers are up 2-0 now, going back into Carolina, and all the sports odd makers this entire time have had Carolina winning, but I don't see it, man. They're a good team, but like these Rangers are they won the President's Trophy and they haven't lost in the playoffs yet. I mean, what is there to look down upon?
Well, and I made a joke the other day. I thought it was really funny. Rangers won game 1 4-3. Obviously, the number one thing Carolina fans do immediately is they blame the refs for them losing. Well,
of course. And that goes for any fan base. It's easiest to blame the refs, right?
But here's the thing though. The Rangers went 2 for 2 on the power play.
It's only 2.
Carolina went 0 for 5. So first of all, Carolina had more power plays. Second of all,
double.
How can you expect to win a playoff game if both your special teams, both power play and penalty kill, are 0% on a game?
Which is interesting because didn't they have like one of the top penalty kills and power plays?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like that, and that's the thing. The Rangers dominated them in that area, both on the Rangers when they're on the power play, which looked very good, and then the Rangers on the penalty kill really kind of shutting down what Carolina had. And to be fair, Carolina's kind of was 0 for 4 because they did get a power play late in the game, and then Svechnikov decided, I'm going to go corkscrew somebody and take a really bad penalty. So really it was kind of only 0 for 4. But again, it's like, if your special teams are both 0%, you're probably not winning a game. So
yeah.
And then obviously tonight really was just, again, I thought the reffing was fine. It was Shesterkin stole the game there, putting up over 50 saves against the Hurricanes, like 54 saves on 57 shots. Incredible stuff there. But hey, I mean, Carolina's going home, tough building to play, and they could easily win 2 and make this make this a series.
Yeah, they're a great team on those special teams. So if they can get those starting to click, look out because they're going to be forced if they can get that going.
Yeah, but I again, like you mentioned with the odds, I really like where the Rangers are sitting. I mean, they're 6-0 in the playoffs right now. Their offense is looking good. Their defense is looking good. Their special teams, their goaltending, like everything looks really good for them right now. And it's going to take a lot for Carolina now. That's going to have to win 4 out of the next 5, or win 4 in a row if they want to win this. It's tough. It's possible. We've seen teams do it.
We've seen it happen.
But it's a long road for them. But it is possible.
3 seasons ago in the conference finals, the Rangers won games 1 and 2 against Tampa, and then they reverse swept them.
Yeah, the Rangers were bummed back then, though. Nobody believed in them.
Oh, nobody believed. They didn't have box office star Rempe.
Yeah. Oh, I think the Rangers might have to actually pull him from the lineup.
He is going to take a penalty, and he's going to cost his team a game at some point.
Yeah.
Watching him out there, and he loves it. He looks like a pig in shit out there when he hits people. he is. They zoomed in on him so many times when I was watching in the first and second, and he is got the biggest grin on his face every time the whistle blows and somebody pushes him. Every time he lays a hit, he looks like a golden retriever. Like, but dude is going out of his way to lay these big hits, and that can be helpful in the playoffs. But
and it's on those calls that it's like a 50-50. The refs aren't giving him the benefit of the doubt because they've seen the shit he's done over, like, he's only been in the league for like 2 months, And the refs are already starting to be like, hey, we're not giving you the benefit of the doubt because
at this point.
Yeah, the refs are like, we know what you're doing.
There was
if
one
Carolina's
part
power play heats up, Rangers can't afford to take dumb penalties like that.
Yeah. There was one point, I believe, in the first period where the whistle blew and, very on purpose, he went and he stopped right in front of Freddie Anderson, like right in his grill. And I think it was Jordan Staal comes up and he goes and pushes him. And he pushes him 3 more times, like aggressively. Like he's trying to knock Rempe over. Rempe doesn't even move his arms. And 2 refs come over and like restrain Rempe like he's a villain in a Batman movie. Like they both come over and they're like, "What are you doing? Get the hell out of here!" When he's the one getting shoved because the refs.
Stahl's not a small guy.
Yeah, they're grabbing him like we don't want this big schmuck causing issues because he's just got that reputation already. So the refs are keeping an eye on him.
Yeah, yes, I'm very curious to see. I'm assuming they probably keep him in because Rangers love to have that shit disturber in their lineup.
Yeah.
But again, it could be detrimental to them if Carolina's power play starts to heat up.
Going back to the point leaders, for leaders in goals in the playoffs, we got 2 guys tied at the top. We got Valeri Nichushkin and Zach Hyman, both with 7 goals already, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys all tied at 5 goals. That being Steven Stamkos, Arturi Lehkonen, Leon Draisaitl, Vincent Trocheck, and Carter Verhaeghe. Kind of interesting to look at, seeing that Lehkonen and Nichushkin are the 2 goal leaders on Colorado.
I mean, Nichushkin, he's all goals. Like I'm not sure he's got an assist yet. And Lehkonen's just one of those guys that's like a dog on a bone in the playoffs, scoring huge goals, timely goals. Like he's one of those guys that just seems to always elevate his game come playoff time. And that's a big part of the reason why he got the contract that he did, is because this is when he shines the most in the playoffs. And it's happening once again for the Avs, which, for a team that is kind of struggled with depth over the last, over this season, is really good that he's, stepping up and filling some of that void for them on some of their lines. It's not their first line led by, all their superstars.
Yeah. That's all I got for those stats before we get to the goalies. Do you have any more specifically to talk about any of these teams?
Edmonton, again, I really don't have much to say because what we saw in the first round is kind of what we expected. So it's not like anything, surprised me or disappointed me.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Rangers in the first round. It's hard to talk about them yet because it feels like we haven't seen them tested very much.
Yeah,
the only game they lost was in overtime.
They're going to get that. They're going to get that with Vancouver. Yeah, I'm very curious to see how Vancouver can kind of weather the storm, considering, McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, Bouchard from the blue line, and your goaltending situation isn't the greatest. I think we're probably going to see, just a run and gun style and let's just outscore them. Or maybe Vancouver kind of sticks to what they were trying to do against Nashville and really try and suppress the Oilers' offense as much as they can. This is a 50-50 series. I think still a lot of people are higher on the Oilers because of the goaltending and just because it's, let's McDavid. But it's like, I really think this series could go either way. It probably goes 6 games at least.
I would hope so.
I just can't wait for this series to get started. It's the only series in the second round that is yet to start. Rangers and Hurricanes have already played games 1 and 2. Boston and Florida will have wrapped up game 2. And then right after that is when Vancouver and Edmonton will just be starting round 2. So going to be interesting to see it, how that goes. I don't know. I can't pick a team in this one.
It's going to be entertaining. I really want it to be Vancouver. I hope they can pull it off, and Artur Silov's the backup goalie, the third string goalie that's come in for Vancouver, has been great so far.
Yeah, he hasn't hurt him. That's the thing. That's why I can't pick a team. Like if he was, average or below average, probably Edmonton all day. But like until Silov shows that,
the best goal scorer he's faced,
he can get ruined.
Philip Forsberg, though. And like that, nothing on Forsberg, but he's not the Edmonton power play. Like if
And that's
if they can
Vancouver's
if
got to
they
stay out of
can
the box.
expose that weakness in net, that's gonna be brutal. That's really
Honestly,
all it comes down to, and we
the
know that with
series,
Edmonton.
yeah, the series probably does come down to is how many penalties does Vancouver take? Because 5-on-5, I think Canucks probably actually do have the upper hand. But like
Yeah,
if you're giving Edmonton power plays, like you're asking to lose. Like look at the Kings, what they did. I thought the Kings actually looked really good 5-on-5. But it's like when they took a penalty, it was like you just knew an Edmonton goal was coming. And then sure enough, there it
yeah.
was. And then it changes the entire tide of the game. So
Do you think on the power play it would be worth it to like who's fast on the Canucks, a forward? Are any of them notoriously like fast guys?
I mean Connor Garland, I think, is pretty quick. But I
Like,
don't
do you
know if he
think it's
does
worth
penalties.
just like grabbing him and just saying, I don't give a fuck where the play is, stay on McDavid and let the rest of them play a 4-on-3?
See, but we
Like,
talked
is it
about that
worth
last
that?
episode. We talked about it. We said with some guys, like, guys who are high skill but not as fast, kind of guys like maybe Matthews or Kucherov. But when it's a guy like McDavid with his speed, I think it's just impossible to. He can do a
Yeah.
quick left step, you go, and before you know it, he's gone right and he's gone. I'm not sure I just don't think it's possible. I think they just have to probably go aggressive and just put pressure on them and hope they make a mistake, or you can capitalize on them making a mistake, and then you can get it out of your zone. Because if you sit back and let them cycle it around, like you're done.
It's not going to work. It's not going to
Because
work.
you
You
can
have
get
to
the
be aggressive.
Draisaitl Patton one timer on his side. You've got Zach Hyman in front of the net hitting everything that comes through, and then you've also got Bouchard bombing it from
Bouchard's
the
got
point,
bombs.
and
Yeah.
then you've got McDavid doing circles around all of you. Like it's just
It's
got to be a
nasty.
nightmare trying to
You
defend that
have to be
power play.
aggressive and hope they can't keep up because
Yeah,
yeah, if you sit back and just try and block and stuff, it's going to go in.
yeah. So I mean, really, it's Vancouver. Just they need to they have to stay out of the box. I think if they want a chance.
Yeah.
Um, that's all I really kind of have on that one because again, not a whole lot to say with those two teams.
Hasn't
Um,
started yet. It'll be very
yeah,
interesting to watch. I'm very
hasn't
excited for
started
that one
yet.
to start.
We kind of already have done Rangers, Carolina, Colorado, Dallas. Again, game one, I don't really kind of a bad collapse by Dallas.
Home, no less. That's
Yeah,
and
yeah, especially at home.
Colorado's another team that's very notoriously good at home. Like, almost impossible to keep McKinnon off the score sheet there. Apparently, like,
Yeah,
so it it's tough to have a big 4-goal collapse versus them at home.
yeah, and I mean, and like Dallas, it was just all Dallas first period, and then they even almost made it 4-0 with like 6 seconds left, and Josh Manson made a great save on the goal line, and again, second period, Dallas takes a couple penalties, and two quick power play goals by Colorado. All of a sudden, right back in it. McKinnon scores in the third period, and then a great goal by Miles Wood there in overtime. His third goal of the playoffs, which actually does have him tied in goals with both McKinnon and Makar. One thing I like about this series, I didn't know this till someone pointed it out to me. Colorado and Dallas. Colorado has Zach Parise, and Dallas has Ryan Suter. Two veterans chasing a cup who were supposed to bring a cup to Minnesota with their record-breaking deals, both bought out, and now they find themselves up against each other like you can make the argument whoever wins this series has a really, really good chance of winning the cup, and it's going to come at the expense of beating your buddy. Because obviously they're very close. They're both Americans, so obviously international stage, and then all their time in Minnesota and whatnot. And now it's coming to a head where, one is going to get to go on, and the other one is unfortunately not going to be able to. But I mean, this series, I think, is still far from over. This Dallas team, you can't count them out. But again, it's a great Colorado team.
Yeah, and I keep seeing people being real low on the Avs, and I just can't fathom why.
Yeah.
What about anything they've done in the last 4 or 5 years has led you to believe that like they're going to get outplayed? Like they're not as deep as they once were, but
the only thing is Kiviranta showing up for one game and just
Yeah.
putting the stars on his back.
But jumping into the goalie stats we got here, we were talking about him earlier, leading the way by quite a margin, and also in games played. Interestingly enough, Jeremy Swayman. This is goals saved above expected. We got Jeremy Swayman with 13.2, Igor Shesterkin with 5.8, and Logan Thompson with 5.2. And then for save percentage, we got this is minimum games played 3, so actually making the cutoff. Joseph Wool with a 964, Jeremy Swayman with a 955, and Arturs Silovs, that third stringer on the Canucks, with a 938. He's doing what he can.
Yeah, he didn't hurt the Canucks one bit. Same with Wool. I mean, if the Leafs in Game 7, got blown out or something, then it's like, man, that probably cost them. But at the end of the day, Samsonov played great. I think Wool would have played just as good. It really came down to the goaltending didn't matter for Toronto in Game 7. I know people love to say if they had Wool, they win. I don't think Wool drops a shutout.
I was gonna say, maybe, but like you can maybe make that argument. You cannot make the argument Samsonov cost him the game, though.
Yeah, that is a better way.
They might have been saved by Wool, but goaltending was not the issue.
Yeah, and then with Swayman in Boston, obviously the one series we haven't really talked a lot about is the Boston Bruins versus the Florida Panthers. Florida obviously having a lot more rest going in than Boston, who only had one day off before their series started, and then Boston coming out huge against Bobrovsky, who's been really good for Florida so far. Boston winning that game 5-1.
5-1.
There was one empty netter. I mean, like, when you look at it, though, like Boston, you get a goal from Morgan Geekie, you get a goal from Mason Lohrei, his first career playoff goal. Brandon Carlo, Justin
notoriously
Brazo.
Defensive defenseman, like
it was all depth scoring
at
for
the game. He was at the game like 3 or 4 hours after the birth of his child. His wife gave birth, and then he was like, "That's awesome. All right, I gotta go play." And then he went and tucked one in his next game out there. So that's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, like it was just a lot of Boston. Like, it wasn't Boston's top guys were still noticeable, but it was a lot of their depth guys getting the goals for them, and that they're going to need that if they're going to want to hang around with Florida in this series, because again, I think Florida's coming in as the better team. I expected Florida to win Game 1. The Bruins really surprised me, especially just because this depth that isn't really supposed to be getting goals a lot for them, all really showed up in a big way. Yeah,
the Panthers, the way they play, it's like you have to beat us with your best guys scoring goals, because no shot anyone else gets there. They got a bit exposed there, and I feel like I run this every year, but I'm always thinking like everyone, the narrative's always, this team got so much more rest, they're going to be so much better. I feel like the team that plays longer and is more currently ready to be playing usually seems to do better.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like the team that gets rest, maybe, I don't know if there's a bit of rust or, a bit too much rest or something, but it consistently feels like these teams that, they come out of Game 7 and they are ready for Game 1.
Well, I was going to say, I could say the opposite looking at the Dallas one, but again, it's like Dallas came out super strong, again, just coming off a series. But once Colorado found their groove again and kind of, got that rust off, they turned the tide on that game. So it's like, I mean, yeah, like it kind of seems like the team that is coming in, having played longer and most recent is kind of looked better, at least early on, until the other team kind of, shakes the rust off. Florida wasn't really able to as much. But again,
it also might have been Dallas doing that kind of notorious thing, park the bus a little, try and play that defensive style and just hold on to your lead. That Colorado team is not a team you can do that against. Yeah. Most teams you can't in the playoffs, especially in the second round. But the only team I would argue that's worse to do in the league is the Oilers, really.
Yeah. 100%. But that does kind of that's kind of everything I've got to say on these. Obviously didn't go super far into them, but again, it's
Yeah.
We kind of know what we're looking at with these teams now, and we're just kind of waiting until all of them are kind of a bit
all the
more
games
underway,
happen.
and we kind of know what we're looking at when these two teams are kind of head to head in the matchups here. Especially because obviously one series has not even started yet.
And it's the one I keep wanting to watch. I thought there was going to be a game today. I was excited to throw it on. They're not doing it yet.
Gotta wait till tomorrow for that one. Gotta wait till tomorrow.
Two other guys I just want to throw this out there because while I was doing the goalie stats, just because they have great numbers, I'm going to do 4 and 5. Aiden Hill had a 931 in the first round, and Jake Ottinger through his first 7 games a 925. Just really impressive numbers there. Wanted to highlight that again.
Both goalies put on a clinic for their teams in that series. It was a lot of fun watching that.
Yeah, people have been very high on Jake Ottinger for the last few years, waiting for him to really break out and kind of be a consistent guy. A couple of people were down on him throughout this year, but he's looking back. He looks like
he did have an injury that took him out for a bit this season, and he looks fully healthy now. He looks dialed in. Obviously tonight was a very tough game, but again, when as good as your penalty kill may be, if you're given that Colorado power play some time and space, it's tough for any goalie to save everything against that. So
yeah. But yeah, I think that's everything I have. Once again, we will be talking about a bunch of the coaching changes in the next episode that'll be coming out on Friday, and catching up on the series as well. Congratulations once again to the San Jose Sharks for
baby,
getting the right to draft Macklin Celebrini at first overall. That's massive.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add?
No, I mean, just great day to be a Sharks fan. Not a lot to enjoy this season, but it's nice that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and
Vegas
something
going
that
out
can enjoy. Yeah,
Vegas going out. Brent Burns goes on in the playoffs. Pavelski goes on in the playoffs, first overall. It's the best week they've had in a bit.
Yeah.
Sharks fans.
For how rough the year was, it is nice to get those little wins, and then obviously very big win here. And I'm very excited to look at all the different possibilities, not only for the Sharks, but for a lot of these other teams come the draft, because it's going to be a very exciting draft. Right? I mean, just from how deep this draft is alone, to the players that we could potentially see moved, all the numerous possibilities is very exciting. But we got to wait, because we still got a lot of playoff hockey left to go through. But once again, we do want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in today for another episode of the Stick 'em Up podcast. We are coming out twice a week now throughout the playoffs. Usually we're doing like a Tuesday or Wednesday upload, as well as our usual on Friday. Like Braden said, we will be back on Friday to kind of go through more of the series once we kind of know a bit more about them, as well as some of the coaching changes around the league. And, maybe there's some other news that breaks between now and then that we will cover. So if you want to join in on the conversation with us in any way, you can find us on any of our socials. We are on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at SEU Hockey. Come say hi to us on there. Come check in. Come talk playoff hockey with us, because we could ramble about this for hours, but we're trying to keep it more condensed here right now. We're failing a bit, but we're making stride in the right direction. I think it's safe to say, right?
Yeah, in the past we've had quite a few 2-hour episodes.
Yeah,
I believe there was one big girthy monster that was 3 hours. So
yeah, we ain't going down that road again.
Going out from here on out, we're gonna try and do around an hour for the Friday episode, and then during the playoffs, while we're doing these Monday, Tuesday, early week episodes, probably try and keep those 40 minutes, give or take a couple minutes on either side.
Yeah,
we'll see if we can swing that. Yeah, we'll see if we can do it. So
we'll try. You guys keep an eye on it, and if we start slacking, call us out for it again on any of our socials. You can find us on there. But once again, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Enjoy the playoffs, and we'll see you guys later this week.